custom, yes.
Sorry. Let me prepare the presentation. Just downloading.
You're alive already.
Yeah, awesome. Okie dokie. Welcome, everybody. My name is Milen, and I'm the Bootcamp manager for the city of Rio de Janeiro. And today I'm very happy to be hosting this data science workshop with you guys, and mostly because it's with one of our recent graduates, Guillaume. I will ask him to introduce himself right after my little presentation. But I'm already really proud to see our students graduating just last Friday, and seeing them teaching already what they've learned in the past 9 weeks the next Wednesday. So thank you, Guillaume, for being here today. But before, let me introduce you to Le Wagon. Hey, Julia, just I let you in charge of the waiting room. I see people waiting. Um, so for the ones who don't know Le Wagon, well, it's very simple. We are the #1 coding bootcamp in the whole world, both for data science and web dev. If you go online, you go on SwitchUp, Course Report, like that kind of review website, you can see that we are the ones with the most positive reviews from our graduates. So we're very proud of that. And we're also very happy to be a very big and strong community because we have been doing this for the past 6 years already. And now we have more than 8,000 graduates all around the world in more than 40 cities. You can do Le Wagon in Berlin, London, Lisbon, Singapore, Melbourne, Montreal, in Brazil, in São Paulo, Belo Horizonte, Rio de Janeiro. And we're very proud and happy to be a part of this international community. And it's definitely a big, a strong point at Le Wagon that we like to highlight. And for the ones who don't know, I have often people coming to me and be like, oh, I want to do Le Wagon, but I'm not sure if I want to be a developer or a data scientist. I'm just interested in learning. It's okay. Like, actually, like when I look at our graduates, only half of them become like hard developers or data engineer, data scientists. And the other half, they do something else. They build their companies, they join tech startups, they join tech giants, they become HR specialists in tech. They become marketing specialists with data. Like this kind of skill that you will learn at Le Wagon is so valued on the job market that you will find some room for sure. And also, like from my experience as a booking manager for the past 2 years in Rio, the one I've seen succeed the most after the bootcamps are actually the one who managed to bring their background, whether it was law, business, marketing, or oceanography, like I don't care what's your background, and collapsing it with your new tech skills that you acquired and making for yourself a new job after the bootcamp. Like these ones are so valuable on the job market because you have this notion of like very hard technical skills mixed with more soft skills or different skills that just make you like such an interesting profile for the industry you're working in. So yeah, if you have any question about that, I will be available for the whole workshop. And even after the workshop, you can find my number on the Le Wagon website. So again, I just would like to remind that we are very well known for 2 bootcamps. The first one is a web dev bootcamp. Like I did it. I was a student in the web dev bootcamp just 2 years ago. It's completely for beginners like me. My background is law and business. I knew nothing about coding, like just a little bit of HTML and actually nothing. And I did the web dev bootcamp and it worked well, worked out fine. And you can learn in both full-time and part-time formats. And then since last October, we're offering the data science bootcamp. So this one is not for beginners, okay? You gotta know how to program. You gotta be with a very strong math background. Trust me, it's not for beginners. I tried to do it, impossible. And again, you can do it in full-time and part-time program. And if you have any question for Guillaume, your teacher today, he's a recent graduate of his program. So feel free to ask him any questions about that too. And to remind you the dates, so right now we're the 8th or 9th of December. So if you want to apply for our January batch, apply now, apply this week. Why? Because no matter what bootcamp you're interested in, we give you some work to do before the bootcamp. So that's why you cannot apply like a week before, 2 weeks before, like because the prep work is about 60 hours of work for you to come with a certain set of basic skills to the bootcamp. So that's why I always rush people like apply now because you have to start preparing now. you have to think ahead of your bootcamp. Like it's such a life-changing experience that you have to prepare 1 month before it, okay? So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me about that, whether it's about the part-time or the full-time. And of course, to keep in touch with our events, initiatives. And this Friday, we have the demo day of the Web Dev Bootcamp. You can find all of this on YouTube, Instagram, LinkedIn, like follow us everywhere. And again, yes, I wanted to remind you guys that this Friday, we will have the demo day of the Web Dev class. So they will be showcasing the apps they built in only 10 days. So please come if you're curious about that. And otherwise, if you're curious about the results of our data science students, you can already check the link on YouTube. You can check their presentation at the beginning of the video. And we're very proud of them. So please give them a lot of love in the comments. And for today, guys, Guillaume is going to be your teacher. And I just want to warn you again, wait, let me stop sharing my screen, that if you want to, you can use the chat for questions, whether it's a Zoom chat or YouTube chat. Okay, okay. Thank you, guys. And thank you again, Guillaume. I let you take over.
Cool. Thank you, Milene. Can you hear me okay, everyone?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
Can you share my screen? Excellent.
Perfect.
Cool. So welcome, everyone. I'm happy to share with you some insights on data analytics today. Maybe just a word about myself before. As Milene said, I just graduated a few days ago, last week actually, of the data science bootcamp here in Rio. So I'm Belgian, but I'm living in Rio. And about my background, actually, I worked for 7 years in a multinational company in finance. And I decided I wanted to change path. I was dealing with Excel spreadsheets, and now I'm switching to Jupyter notebooks. As I will show you today, it's gonna be quite fun. And yeah, so it's actually funny because I followed this same workshop 3 months ago, and I found it very cool. And it's funny that I'm not able to share this with you. So how it's going to work? It's going to be a very hands-on approach, meaning I will show you some slides, but I will also live code. And at the end of the presentation, you will have access to a platform for you to practice from your side. So that's actually quite cool because you can just sit back, relax in your seat and listen to what I'm saying. That don't have to take too much notes because you will have the slides at the end. So let's get started. We're gonna first learn a bit of Python. Obviously, it's gonna be a short intro because there's a lot of things in Python. We're gonna see the basics and the necessary stuff for today. And then we're gonna explore our first data set to see actually what a data scientist can do. Like, I mean, on a daily basis, what does a data scientist do with his data set and get some info from it. So one thing also, do not hesitate to ask questions. Milene is seeing your comments and can interrupt if there's a problem. So yeah, today we're gonna work in what we call notebooks, Jupyter Notebook. If you're interested in data analytics, you probably already heard about this, Jupyter. It's a very, very common tool that I use by data analysts and data scientists. We often say that Jupyter is the new Excel. And I will show you a few insights on this as well. So Python 101, a bit of an intro. Let me show you first where we're going to work. So this Jupyter notebook is actually like a software. You have a few cells here. You have like cells where you can code in, and you have cells that you can, if you want to switch, for example, to Markdown, you can just write some text, and you can also, for example, highlight in in bold, and we show you text. So that's actually quite handy, because you can mix code and text to explain what you're actually coding. You can add some graphs, and it's something in your company, for example, as a data scientist. If you want to share the info you've collected from the data, it's actually a good way to share to the people that are not data scientists in finance, for example. It's actually a good way to share. So let's go into Python. We're gonna first see some data types. So data types is actually categories of data you're gonna deal with. You have numeric, you have text, you have Booleans. So we'll start with numeric. I'm gonna delete this because we're not writing text. So let's try just some basic stuff and see what Python can do. For example, here, I'm just typing a few numbers, and it gives me, I write an input, it gives me an output. So this is quite basic. And we were talking about data types. I want to see, for example, what type this number 5 is. So it shows me integer. Integer is actually, it's a number, and it differentiates from float, which are actually decimal number. So if I type, for example, in here, I want to see what data type is this. It's going to show me float. Okay, so for the moment we have integers, we have float. And another famous and very useful data type in Python is actually Booleans. So what is Booleans? Booleans is actually a type of value where you will store a false or true. So that is a Boolean, and it's actually a conditional type of value. For example, let's say I want to see if 5 is greater than 10. It's going to show me false. Okay, so Booleans work with conditional operators. This one is false. If I'm gonna inverse this, it's gonna show me true. And you can actually play with it. For example, I want to see if I can have false and false. It's going to show me false. What if I want to have true and false, or true or false, for example? You have all these kinds of types. So you will see dealing with Python that this comes in very useful, because you can put conditions in your data and select, for example, I want to select all the data where 5 is smaller than 10. So all the data that is true, and you can play with it. So let's go back to our slides. We've seen some numeric, integers and floats. We've seen Booleans, and I've skipped the strings. So I'm going to write some strings here. So what is a string? A string is actually, sorry. A string is a list of character that is written between brackets. So for example, I want to write the word Paris. Okay, so this is a list of character, and if I check the type of Paris, let me check. I write my brackets, Paris. It gives me a string. Okay, so this is the third or fourth principal data types that you will see in Python. There are others, but these are the main ones you can play with. All right, so it's always important when you deal with a data set to ask yourself, what is the type of my data? Okay. For example, if you have a few examples here, what would be the data type of a street number? Street number usually will probably be integers. Okay, we don't have decimals in street numbers. Zip code, it could be integers, but it could also be strings. If we combine, for example, I want to see the type of, I don't know, my zip code is a list of letters, but I want to also put numbers. This type is also a string. And what's interesting as well, if you put these commas, but you just leave the numbers, it will still give you a string. If you remove the commas, you will get a type integers. Okay. All right. So now about variables. This is an important concept to understand in Python. You can see variables as boxes where you will store your values. So the example here, we've seen that Paris is a string, and we want to store Paris into the variable city. All right. So for example, I'm gonna write city equals Paris, and you actually read it from right to left. So I'm gonna put Paris inside city. Okay. So if now I want to know what's inside city, gonna write city, and it gives me Paris. Okay. So that's basically the box where it's written on it city, and inside of your box you have the city Paris. If I change to Brussels, I'm gonna have a new city inside my box. All right. Okay. Now a bit about functions. So inside Python, you will see that you can to your data you can apply functions, and there are a few built-in functions inside Python that are already there inside the code, and you can use it as you wish. For example, this. Let's say I'm gonna delete this. Okay. For example, what do you think this function will give me? I'll write the right Paris. What do you think this is gonna give me? So it gives me 5, and as you would have guessed, 5 is the length of the string Paris. All right, so it gives me the length of a string. What if I put here city? Do you think it's gonna give me the same number? Well, actually, if we try, no, because we've changed our city to Brussels previously. So the object inside city is still Brussels. So it will give me 8, a length of 8, which is the length of Brussels. Okay. So you can always check your check inside Python. You Google the type of functions you have, and it's often self-explanatory. So length is well, always the name of the function is is quite similar to what the objective of the function is. So what we can also do is to call methods. So methods is some kind of functions that you can associate with objects. So in this example, let's take the name Boris. All right, we're gonna say that I'm gonna store Boris inside the variable name, and I want to have my Boris, which is a name, I want to have it capitalized. So a capital, starting with a capital letter. All right, let's see what this gives me. It gives me the name that I had stored with an actual capital letter to start. So this is actually quite handy. So methods are really, in compared to functions, they're really linked to, you have to associate it to a variable. And other kinds of methods, which is similar to capitalize. You've seen that in capitalize, I haven't specified anything into the parentheses here. But I could say, for example, does my name ends with, and I will put the string s. So I told you the name of the methods is usually very similar to what the objective of the function is. In this case, it's very self-explainable. So we're going to see what it returns me. It returns me true, okay? Because actually Boris obviously ends with an s. If I put Paul, and I want to see if Paul ends with an s, it's going to give me false. Okay. So that was it as a short introduction of Python. You can see that we can already do some funny stuff with not a lot, and you will, if you dive into it, you will see that the possibilities are endless. So that's cool, but we want to have actual data to work on. So I'm going to say a few words about data sourcing, which is actually one of the most important job into data analysis and data science, is to collect a good amount of data and to work with it. So data is all around the internet. You can find it into software that you can export as a CSV file. You've probably already heard about it. CSV file for comma separated values. You know that it's somewhere in a database, for example, in your company. It's on a website you visit often, or you know it exists via an API. So there are plenty of types of source of data. It's not always as structured as we would like it to be, but that's also one of the main job of the data scientist. It's to actually make the data more readable. So about these different source of data, I told you about structured and unstructured. So structured is actually a format. It's a highly organized and formatted way of data that is easily searchable and easily treatable. And when we talk about unstructured data, it will be data that will be in no predefined format or organization. So it's more difficult to collect and to read it, but not impossible to process. It's just a bit of more pre-work before being able to read it. And then binary and proprietary, these are the data that are most difficult to get and to read. Proprietary ones, it will be data owned by a company, so you will need a password to access it, or you have to pay for it. So these are the kind of files you can find data in. All right. Now, in terms of what data is online, I don't know if you heard about SQL. You probably did if you were interested in data science. SQL is a type of relational database, and it's one of the tool that is most important for data scientists. So if you plan to study data science, I really advise you to look deep into it. It's often said that we cannot be good enough in SQL, so it's always you can always increase your knowledge. So this is one way to access it in your company. You probably have SQL if you have enough data. So that's one source. In Google BigQuery and also other data warehouse provider. Google BigQuery also work with relational databases, but it's obviously it's owned by Google, and I mean, this is already for high quantity data, very big data set. APIs. So I don't know if you're familiar with APIs. APIs is actually, to put it conceptually, it is, take the example, I will take a small metaphor. Take the example of a restaurant. Imagine you're a customer in a restaurant and you want to order some food. So the customer is actually the user on the internet, and the restaurant, the kitchen, will be websites on internet, companies, data providers, etc. The API will actually be the waiter. So you will say, you will say to the API, I want this type of information, and the waiter will go to the kitchen. It will put your order, and whatever happens in the kitchen, how complicated it is, how much data there is, you will not see it. But the API, the waiter, will come back to you with just the information that you asked. This is a metaphor that helped me understand APIs at the beginning. And then the third tool, if really you don't have a database, you don't have APIs available, you can actually practice web scraping. What is web scraping? It's actually going onto the code of a website and actually directly manually collecting data from it. I say manually, but often it's also done with automated tools. So one example we did in the bootcamp was to web scrape the IMDb movie sites, and just by writing some automated methods, we have extracted a lot of information from this IMDb movie website. So don't hesitate for SQL, API, and web scraping. Those are kind of interesting topics you can dive more into. The Wagon is actually offering a free workshop like this one if you want to have more details on it. So do not hesitate to check that. So also there are websites where you can actually search for specific data set. If you don't have any idea where to search, you can search. For example, in this one, it's hosted by Google, and you can, for example, I don't know. Here is an example. of different data sets on coronavirus. And you can just, I mean, there's a lot of data around here if you wanna play with it. So that's one source. Another one is Kaggle. This one I really like, and we will actually work on a Kaggle data set today. But Kaggle is actually a platform where you can find data sets about pretty much everything, but also you can practice. There are classes on SQL, on data analytics, on Python. So if you wanna start somewhere with data science, you can always check on Kaggle. All right. So we're gonna talk about Pandas. So what is Pandas? Pandas is a quite powerful library that we use for data analytics in Python. So it is quite powerful because it provides a lot of tools to manipulate data and good data structures. We're gonna use it today, and you'll see how powerful it is. So Pandas, but why not Excel? That's a very good question. You've probably all seen an Excel spreadsheet. You probably all worked with an Excel spreadsheet. It's widespread in all big companies and in all sorts of jobs. And Excel is actually quite powerful as well. But there are some limitations. All right. The size of the data set you will be able to work with Excel will be limited. In Python, you will have much more scalability, and also you will be able to combine multiple files. You can make combination with API. You can source from different data format, and you can work with Jupyter notebooks, with visualization that are much more advanced than Excel. In Excel, you can have basic graphs, but with a Jupyter notebook, with Python, and with Pandas, you actually will have much more fun working with it. It will be much more smoother. So the simplest way we can use Pandas, one of the good thing is they have to source data. As I told you, they have functions to read your data in your notebook from a lot of different data sources. So here we have CSV files, but you can also source from Excel, from PDF. I don't know, a lot of different types. So Pandas IO tools, it's input output. I'm going to show you actually the different types of inputs and output that Pandas is able to read. So you have CSV, which is the basic one, the most used, but you have, as you can see, a lot of other different format type. So you can actually read as an output. Let's say I found HTML and I want to read it with Pandas. I can. I found I don't know, much more other types. That's your input. But as an output, imagine you have worked with an Excel, but you actually want to rewrite your analysis into a CSV. Well, you can actually export your data to a CSV. That's actually quite handy. Seaborn is another library that we will use we will use together with Matplotlib today as data visualization tool. So data visualization, together with your notebook, it's very important for data scientists, because you want to be able to communicate your findings in a simple way that is understandable by other people that have not worked with the data set. And visualization, bar charts, etc., is always pretty explanatory. So we're going to use it. But as I said, let's go into our first data set. Going to play with it. And the one we actually play with is a database of New York City's Airbnb. So it's quite cool. It's a data set from 2019, collected from Kaggle. So you can actually have a preview here. You will see that in our data set, we have the name of the Airbnb, the host ID. You will have the name of the host, the location, the area, latitude, longitude. You will have the price in dollar. So we're gonna see a bit what's in there. So I have previously downloaded the data set on my computer. So we're gonna be able to use it here with the notebook and with Pandas. So the input is a CSV. So we're going to use that function, as I told you. So I'm going to start a new section here. I'm going to make it a markdown cell. Let's analyze our first data set with Pandas. All right. So I'm going to read the file here. This is the path where my file is stored. And I'm going to put it into, store it into a variable, which I call listingsdf. All right. So when you start with a data set, it's always good to have a little preview of what's inside. And with Pandas, you can actually have pretty easy access to what your data look like. You want to see how many columns, how many rows you have, what are the data types. So we're gonna have a look on this. So first, let's see the shape of our data set. So what does this give me? What do you think these numbers are representing? So it's actually the number of rows and the number of columns. So I have around 49,000 rows, which is quite a big data set with 16 different columns. All right. Now I want to see what my data actually look like. So there is this this method quite handy, which shows me the head of my data set. So that's quite cool. I can see just with five columns, five rows, sorry, I can see what's inside my data set. So by default, it gives me 5 rows, but I can say I want to have the 10 first rows. So here it is. That's one way. There's another way, which is tail. What do you think tail will give me? That's right. It will give you the the actual end of your data set. So you have the index here where you can see the column, the row number, and it gives me the tail of my data set. Okay, I want to make this shorter. So as I told you at the beginning, it's important to see what the type of your data is. So what we'll do, we're gonna do listings df. Yeah, just one thing I didn't mention, when I say df, it's for data frame, which is actually the name of the table in Pandas. So when you have a table with various rows and various columns, you call it a data frame. It's a specific type of object. So what did I want to do? I wanted to check inside my data frame what types of probably should do this. No. Don't remember this one. Probably data types. Yes. So data types. What does it give you? It actually gives you all your columns with what data type your column is. Because when you import a CSV file, you want to be sure your data is imported correctly, and you want to be sure you can deal with numbers, with strings, with floats, etc. So in this case, in Pandas, an object is actually a string, and you find as well integers and floats, like we've seen at the beginning. All right. So we have seen the shape. We know that we have 49,000 rows. We've seen how our data look like, and we know what data types we have. That's cool. So when you have an overview of your data, after that you want to start actually cleaning it, because this is an important part into data science. Before giving graphs and bar charts, etc., like fancy stuff, you first need to clean your data and be sure your data is correct. So in this case, for example, I want to find in my listings df all data that is null. All right, you know, in Excel you have NAs. Well, in this case, this returns me Booleans. I'm asking with Pandas if my data is null. Where is it null? I have a bunch of false because luckily my data is not all null. But I want to do a sum of all the NAs, and I have a much more clearer result, which says that I have 16 missing names. In here, for example, I have a bunch of reviews where it's NA. So I wanna get rid of that, because this will not be useful for me, and it might lead to errors. Okay. So when you clean your data, you've identified which data is missing, and you can also, like, say, this data for my analysis, well, it's not very useful. So in this case, there are 3 columns that I know will not be useful for my data set. So I will just drop them. So what I do here is I will store in a variable three columns that I don't want to take. So I store them in columns.drop. And I will actually say, okay, with the function, I will take listings df. With the method drop, I can actually say, you're gonna drop all the columns that I have stored in columns to drop. I'm gonna say the axis is columns, and I want to put in place equals true. What does in place equals true mean? It means actually if you don't put these arguments, well, it will actually just give you a copy of your data set without the columns you've dropped, but it will not remove them from the data set. So in this case, I want to say from this data frame, you're going to actually drop them and not just give me a copy. All right. Columns, yeah, probably column. Yeah, I actually have to put a string here. All right. Okay. So let's check if it worked. I'm actually gonna take the head again, first 5 rows, and I want to see if my first, if I have actually dropped the column. And I think I did, because I had ID here, I had host name, and these actually have disappeared. So now I actually have listings df. You see that my number of columns has dropped to 13 instead of 16. Cool. What else? Yeah, we've seen that we had a lot of nulls into the reviews, and what I want to do is, okay, it's not all trash in there, because I have 30,000 other reviews. So I don't want to drop the column, but what I will do is I'm going to fill, and again, it's another self-explanatory method. I want to fill all the NAs with something that makes sense. And I want to say every time that it's NA, I'm going to put a 0 instead. I could put in other example, I could put here the mean of the actual data, the median. You can specify. And again, I'm going to put in place equal true. Otherwise, I will just get a copy of this. So let's see if this will work, because you see that previously I got an NA here on the row number 2. So let's see if that works. Listings df had 5, and it actually worked because it has put a 0 here. So perfect. So now, bit by bit, I have cleaned my data set. I've replaced the value I've wanted to. So I start to be ready to play with it. So yeah, I'm gonna, if I want to select specific types, specific columns, specific data, let's say I just want to highlight the neighborhood groups, or I just want to highlight the room type, well, I'm actually able to select them. The way you do this is you just take the name of your data frame. You will put some brackets, and you will specify in here, well, the column you want to select. If you want to keep it as a data frame, you will have to put 2 brackets. Let's add some other neighborhood group, for example. So let's see what this gives me. So you see that here I have easily selected just the name and the neighborhood. And again, if I want to have the head, I just take the same code and I say, I just want to have the first 5 rows. All right. But what if you want to play? Here you just take the first one. But what if you want to play with other rows? You will take listings df, and if you want to play with rows, you will actually play with the indexes. So I say I want to take rows 5 to 10. And here I go, I have rows 5 to 10, 10 being excluded from the range. That's something you will learn in Python. Okay, but I just wanted the name and the neighborhood group. So let me just copy that here, and I will just add it into my where was I? Here. Add some brackets, and I've selected the name and the neighborhood of line 5 to 9. So that's how you can isolate the information you actually want. All right. So rows, indexes, and combine both approaches. Now Boolean indexing. Remember I told you about Boolean at the beginning and how we could play with conditional markers? Well, let's try it in this data set. Let's take our data frame. And let's say I want to have the, yeah, I'm going to have the prices that are over 1,000. Do you think that will work? What will I get with this command? Oh, what do I get? I get a whole bunch of, I get actually my whole data frame, which is converted into a series because I just take one column. And it tells me if my price in that row is higher or not than 1,000. So that's actually not what I want to get, but it shows you what the output of this does. If I want to get it more clear, and I just want to have what is actually higher than 1,000, well, I just select inside my DF what is above 1,000. And you can see here the price column that gives me all above 1,000. So that's actually pretty handy. All right. So what if we actually start asking questions to our data set? Exploratory data analysis is very important because now that you know how your data look like, you want to start extracting really important information from it. All right. In your company, you will the departments outside of your department will want to ask you a few insights, and you will be able to answer them. So let's make a new section in our Jupyter notebook. I'm gonna mark down. So our first exploratory data analysis. Cool. And our first question is, what are the 10 most reviewed listings? Sorry. So, well, you remember that there are a lot of functions built in Python, built in Pandas. And if you think about something you want to know about your data set, well, there is probably already a function for that. If it's not inside the library, it has actually been developed by some guy on the internet, so you can Google it and retake it. That's the beauty of coding. You can find everything, and everything you think about has already been thought about. So let's go for our first question. We want to know what are the 10 most reviewed listings. All right. So what could be a good function? Well, I know this one exists. And I want to specify how many, what top do I want? Do I want the top 15, top 10, top 5? And what column I want. So in this case, I'm gonna take number of reviews. Let's see if that worked. Do you think that worked? So let's check. Yeah, that seemed to work. So this is my column number of reviews. And I have here the top 10 of the highest numbers. So that's cool. We have Manhattan, we have the Queens. That was a first introductory question, but we will ask a lot more. So what if I want to know what are the actual New York neighborhood groups within these listings? We can see in a data set that we have Brooklyn, Queens, Manhattan, but this is only an extract, so we're not sure if there are other ones that exist. So what can we do? Well, we're just gonna take our column neighborhoods group, and we're gonna put it as a string, and I'm gonna ask actually to give me all the unique values that they are in this column. So it will not give me the whole list. It will actually give me only the unique values that I can find. And it's actually not neighborhoods, but neighborhood. And I have here a list of all the neighborhood groups in New York. So I have Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens, Staten Island, and Bronx. So that's cool. I know that my data set is only those ones. I have nothing outside. All right. So that's cool to see what are the neighborhood groups, but I want to actually know how many listings I have per neighborhood group. So what I can do, I can just take my column, and there is actually a useful method here that's called value count. What will it give me, do you think? Well, if I take neighborhood groups, it will tell me for each category, for each group, the number of listings I have. So pretty cool. You see that Manhattan is the biggest one, then Brooklyn, and then very little for Queens, Bronx, and Staten Island. So with that, we have an idea of the spread of the actual Airbnbs in New York. That's useful. So what if we want? What if we want actually the top 10? So we were dealing with neighborhood groups, but now we want to actually deal with proper neighborhood names. So inside Manhattan, you have Harlem, but you also have Lower East Side and another different neighborhoods. So these are the top level category, and these are the child categories. All right, so let's see inside of each neighborhood group what we have. And I'm gonna take neighborhood. Oh, that's a big list. And I just want to have my top 10. So I will just take head 10. All right. I forgot to put the questions here. So let me just add this here, just so we remember. So we've switched from group to neighborhood, actual neighborhoods. And we can see those ones are the more demanded or the more offered into Airbnb. All right, that's cool. So now we have asked a lot of things. We have some numbers, but we actually want to see some graphs. So what we can do, we're going to use the libraries that we've imported. And actually, I haven't imported the libraries. So let me import matplotlib. And I want to also import Seaborn. We've talked about these two in the slides. And here I'm just passing a shorter name for me to use in the code. So when you play with a notebook, for the sake of this exercise, I'm importing them here. But I should actually be importing these libraries at the beginning of my notebook to be sure that every code that follows will be treated correctly. All right, so we were speaking about these top 10 neighborhoods. And it's actually just as simple as plot. And I'm gonna say I want to have a bar chart. All right, so let's see if that gives me something. Cool. So I have actually here a bar graph with with my actual list here of number of listings per neighborhood in a much more readable way. That's actually quite useful. So now we've used the simple matplotlib, and I told you there was Seaborn as well. Seaborn is actually a bit more advanced. They have fancier graphics, I would say. So you can play with both. You can combine them, and actually here I want to have a count plot, and I want to say my data. In this case, I need to pass arguments, so it's not just adding plot to the end of my selection, but I'm going to put my selection inside of the parentheses. In this case, I want to have my listings df. I want to have for my x-axis, which is this one, as you probably know. So this is the x-axis, this is the y-axis. I want to have in my x-axis the neighborhoods groups. Is it neighborhoods or neighborhood? Neighborhood. All right. And I forgot an I. Cool. So you see, I told you Seaborn was a bit fancier. In this case, it adds some colors, so it's more pleasant to read. But when I look at it, there's something I don't really like about it. I don't know if you're thinking the same, but I actually want these bars to be ordered from highest to lowest, which is not the case here because Manhattan is in second and Status Island is not the last. So what I can do is actually, what can I do? I will create a variable, which I will call order. I will take listings df with my neighborhood groups. All right. I'm going to take my value counts that we've seen earlier. And I'm going to take my index. Okay. What did this gives me? Let's first see what it gives me. It is actually putting them in the right order. So that's pretty cool. So I want to store it into the variable called order. And I'm going to take again the code for my Seaborn. And I will add another argument inside my parentheses. I will say the order is equals order that we have just specified here. Let's just add I just want to add order neighborhood just to distinguish from the argument here. All right. And I didn't put enter here, so it didn't store the variable. And here we are. So now I have a neat graph in actually an order that I like. Perfect. So another question. What is the influence the neighborhood group has on room type? That's a good question. So what I can do here, let's first, we haven't explored the room type yet. So I just want to check what's inside room type. But I don't want to have the whole list of room type. So I will just take, as we did for the neighborhood groups, take the unique values. So you'll see we have 3 categories of room types: private room, entire room or apartment, and shared room. So these are the only 3 categories we have in room type column. Okay. So the objective here is to actually take the same piece of information, but just to add a layer. So add a piece of information inside my bar chart, make it a bit more complex, but with a lot more insights. So what we can do is add something called hue and just add room type. What do you think it's gonna give me? Cool. So I actually have the different spread of room types per neighborhood groups. So we can see that in Manhattan, there are a lot more entire apartments that are offered, much more than private rooms, which is not the case in Brooklyn, where it's almost even. So that's interesting information. Okay, since we're making graphs, it might be interesting to check at distributions. So if you guys are familiar with statistics, you probably know what a distribution is, and the best way to show it, it's actually graphically. So we're gonna do that, and we're gonna use actually a specific type which is included in Seaborn. We're gonna see dist plot. So again, you have a function for everything that you can think about, and in this case, I want to see a distribution of the prices inside neighborhoods. So yeah, my column is actually named price. So I will take my data frame and I will select price. All right. Well, that's interesting. It's interesting, but not that much. Actually, I can see that there are a lot of prices below 1,000, but this graph is not really readable. So what could I do to make it more readable, do you think? Is there a way I could do that? I'm not able to zoom on the image or anything, so what could I do? Well, I could actually center this graph on a specific category of price, because you see the most of them are under 1,000. And the reason I see the whole graph is because, well, there are some apartments which are probably not rented a lot by average people, which are at $10,000. So it's actually very spread. We call these outliers. So I don't want to play with that. What we can do to be sure of what we're doing is to actually check the number of prices that are above 1,000, for example. So we can. What's the best way to do it, do you think? Should I use, for example, Boolean indexing? Yeah, that sounds like a reasonable thing to do. I'm gonna take, yeah, I'm gonna take 1,000 to remember how many apartments above 1,000 I got at the beginning. Well, there's only one way to know. Oh, and I'm gonna check the shape, because that's a quick way to see how many columns I have. And above 1,000, I actually have 239 apartments. So on a data set of 40,000, it's actually not that much. So I can easily exclude those one without distorting the data set. And I could actually check what's above 500 to see if it's sensitive or not. Well, I just have 1,000. So we could reasonably say that we don't want to deal with apartments above 500. What do you think? Yeah. I think personally we can exclude them from our analysis. So we're going to plot them. That was our first objective, is to plot the distribution of these prices. So first, let's create a new data frame. We're going to call it affordable data frame. Oh. So now I have a new data frame where are stored all the listings with a price above 500, but this is not correct because I want to actually have all the ones that are lower than 500. All right, and I want to see the distribution of them. Cool, so we're going to take affordable DF, and we're just going to take the prices. Let's see what we got. Yay. So now we have a much more readable graph where we have the prices on the x-axis and what is called density here on the y-axis. So we can see it's not a normal distribution because it's skewed on the right. So the graph is not centered. And we can see something a bit weird here. We have some highs here, highs and lows on the graph. Does anybody have an idea of what that might be? Yeah, so it's actually this psychological thing people use with prices to put instead of 200, you will put 199, just so the price looks lower. Well, actually, a lot of people do that. So we have, a higher number of these kind of prices every time we approach round numbers. All right. Well, so you see, we have a curve here, but it's actually behind this. What the graph is doing is that it's taking ranges of prices. So it's not per individual prices, but per ranges. That's why we have kind of a bar chart behind. And if we want to, we could guess that the mean, if we want to know the mean of our price, of our affordable price, the mean would be somewhere around here. But we can actually, with Pandas, easily know what the mean is. And how do you think we do that? Well, actually, you could just ask for mean. And the mean of the affordable prices is 130. It's interesting as well to see the mean of our whole data set. So if we don't exclude all the ones above 500, what will it get me? Get me 152, so much higher mean. And you can see that the outliers we have here are influencing the mean a lot. So that's why we usually want to exclude them, or at least to tweak them, you know, for our data not to be distorted. And now gonna do fancier graphs. We've seen the distributions, we've excluded the highest prices, and we actually looked for the mean. Now, based on, we want to have actually these prices based on the neighborhood groups. We want to be able to compare for each neighborhood the distribution of the prices. So one chart that is quite, well, it actually contains a lot of information. It's called the violin plot. So it's a very nice name to name a graph. And I'm gonna use it here. You'll see the result. I'm gonna take my affordable DF still. I'm gonna say the X is neighborhood groups. Yeah. I want to put it into a string. And I'm going to say that my y-axis is the price. Cool. Drum roll. And it's actually, I actually need to import the module Seaborn, as I told you. Import Seaborn as SNS. Oh no, it's not the import, sorry. It's violin plot. There we go. How do you think of that? Cool. Well, that's actually to me a bit small, so I will want to make it a bit bigger. And I told you that we could combine Matplotlib and Seaborn, and in this case, I want to combine them just to make the figure size a bit bigger. I'm gonna put it at 15 and 8. Let's see if that works. Yeah, so that's much more readable. So I told you there are a lot of information into these violin plots. What types of information? Well, first, the curve of the distribution. If you actually turn the graph clockwise 90 degrees, you will see that these represent actually the distribution curve of the prices into that neighborhood. So we can see, for example, that in Manhattan, the distribution is much more spread than in Brooklyn, for example. So we have a lot more a higher price. It's much more uniform. And what other types of information can we check here? For example, you see inside, there is actually a line, and you can see a line a bit thicker in there and a white dot. Well, for those of you who have a bit of statistical background, the white dot is actually representing the median value of the prices in that neighborhood. And the thicker line here is the interquartile. So you have the first quartile here and the beginning of the fourth quartile here. So it helps you having more information about your data. A lot more insights. All right. So that was interesting. Now I'm gonna do something even more exciting. I was quite impressed when I saw this for the first time 3 months ago. So I kind of like it. We want to actually start plotting the Airbnbs on the map. But first, we're not gonna. Sorry. I'm gonna put this as markdown. What is scatterplot? Well, scatterplot is actually, how do you think we in the data set we have here, we actually have an interesting piece of information, which is latitude and longitude. So this enables us to put a location on a map. What do you think what axis the latitude should be? Is it vertical? Is it horizontal? Is it X? Is it Y? Well, actually, latitude is the Y axis. So we're gonna actually, that's how you plot something on the map. Actually, you take the coordinates, X and Y, longitude and latitude, and I will copy this one. There you go. Nice. So what did this actually do? It plotted the different Airbnb given the latitude and longitudes, which are my Y and X axis. And I've actually added a price variable. So the price variable, it's actually a third piece of information that we can read like this. The whiter, the clearer the point, the higher the price. So you can see, can you spot here Manhattan with a lot more clear dots? Well, that's where the highest Airbnbs are. And can someone guess what the little line here is? Yeah, this is Central Park. That's quite cool because Central Park is so big we can see on the map, and obviously there's no Airbnbs in Central Park. So this gives us a really good overview of the different prices. But we can do something even cooler. And I've written this piece of code beforehand. We can add a layer to a graph, and we can actually have a map below it. So that's even more readable. You can see the river and you can see the spread in the different neighborhoods of the Airbnb. Cool. Well, that's pretty much the end of the live coding. I hope you enjoyed it as I did. Now, before giving you the link to the Learn and for you to practice yourself, there are some topics, as I said in the beginning, for you to go a bit deeper, to go further in the data set. And I see actually that time has passed very fast, so sorry for that. So SQL, as I mentioned at the beginning, you cannot learn enough about SQL. You can always perform better. There are plenty of resources out there, especially free workshop from Le Wagon. SQL is widespread into companies. Relational databases is very important into data science, being able to query data to pick information from a data set. It's always important to have that skill mastered. The API, as I told you as well, very important, also widespread. in the tech world, not only for data science, but in web development as well. So this is something very important for you, not only to understand, but also to be able to use it as you can source a lot of information from API. And then web scraping. There are actually a lot of easy resources you can use to web scrape yourself. And there will be a workshop end of this month with our friend Mo that will give you more insights on this and show you what web scraping is and how what kind of information you can extract. So I don't know if there were questions, but before that, I will also make it a little point on machine learning, because what we've seen today is very interesting. It's all static data. But with machine learning, you can actually start making more advanced query and even start making predictions, which gives you even more insights to your company. So there are some easy libraries out there that you can start playing with. So do not hesitate to have a look at it. And then yeah, this is your turn. Oh.
Jinda,
right.
I think you forgot to mute yourself. Okay.
Yeah. Cool.
Okay.
Well, yeah. If you have any questions, do not hesitate. Also, you can contact me outside if you want. Contact me, Lene, if you need information about Wagon. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and do not hesitate to give your feedback. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Guillaume. Guys, for everybody now on the Zoom link or even on YouTube, if you have any question, feel free to post, or you can also unmute yourself, show your video, and just ask questions directly. A question from Divya for you, Guillaume. How much statistics should I know to be a data analyst?
Okay. Well, there are a lot of different definitions out there in terms of data analyst, data scientist. It's true that usually data scientists have a lot more background into statistics and mathematics. But I think data analytics, data analyst, you can find positions without too much of a statistical background. So if you easily play with numbers, if you start learning about Python, you can always enter that world without too much problem. And obviously, it's always good to learn basic statistics. You don't have to deep dive into everything, but you can easily learn the basic concept yourself as well.
Thank you, Guillaume. Divya, I hope that answered your question. Guys, do you have any other question? If you don't feel like writing, you can unmute your mic. You can also ask in Portuguese if you're more comfortable with Portuguese. Guillaume can speak Portuguese, I know he can. He can understand for sure.
I'll try.
No questions about the class, about the bootcamp, about the industry, anything, feel free. No questions? Okie dokie. In that case, guys, let me invite you to 2 events. The first one is the one I was telling you about at the beginning of the workshop. This Friday at 6 p.m. Rio time, live on YouTube, you can see the final projects of our web dev bootcamp. So this time it will be more web applications. It will not be like data science project, but if you're curious about that, please feel free to join. If it's always nice. And then the second event that Guillaume mentioned is if you're interested in web scraping with Python. Is it with Python? Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Mo, who's in the call right now, will be giving it on the 21st of December. So not this Monday, the following Monday. Same time, it will be around 12:30 p.m. 8 p.m. Yeah. So please join us. It's gonna be cool. It's gonna be like kind of a follow-up after this one. And if you're curious about scrapping and again the bootcamp data science, it's a place for you. So we'll be very happy to have you there. Okie dokie. No questions? Approve? No? Okay, great, guys. Thank you so much. Hope to see you in the next events. And thank you, Guillaume, for sharing your knowledge with you. It was such a pleasure and so proud to see one of our students giving a class already like so soon after graduating. Thank you so much, Guillaume.
Thanks, everyone.